Southern California. So about 109 years ago. And Carl Lumbly really wanted to have folks watch where they made movies. So they had walking tours at the time. Guests could walk around a lot and watch the filming of the silent movies. Once we began to incorporate sound into film, couldn't really do those walking tours anymore. But then on July 15th of 1964, that's when Universal Studios introduced the world-famous Studio Tour. It was a 2-hour driving tour on our red and white glamour trams. Now, coming up on the right side of the tram, you're going to spot Fire Station 51. This is a very real fire station. This is not a set for a television series or a movie. Now, Fire Station 51, we have it here because we are our very own city. Universal City has its own zip code, fire station, sheriff's department, honorary mayor. We have 3 Starbucks and a coffee bean and tea leaf. But we are the strangest city in the world because we have no residents. Nobody actually lives here in Universal City. We also have a bunch of these big buildings called sound stages. And we're going to be seeing one of the oldest and largest sound stages at the bottom of the hill coming up on the left side of the tram. Soundstage 12 used to be home to the NBC singing competition for boys, but when Soundstage 12 went through a pretty big renovation, they moved the voice over to stages 30 and 31. Now up on your screens, these are going to be movie scenes that all filmed inside of Soundstage 12. Retreat, so they can make it look like an outdoor resort inside of our stages. Many of the larger stages have pits inside of them that can be filled with water for various production needs, and we prefer to film inside of the sound stages because of the amount of control and flexibility we have over the environment inside. So up on your screens, that is what a soundstage looks like with no set. The material lining the walls is called Instaquilt. It's like taking a bunch of mattresses and squeezing them together, and this helps reduce the amount of echo that you're going to get when filming inside of a soundstage. Over on the left side of the tram, we're passing stages 8 and 7, which were used for the production Bel Air. It's a dramatic retelling of The Fresh Prince of Bel Air starring Jamari Banks, and you can watch 3 seasons streaming on Peacock. We're also seeing a couple of the production vehicles on the left side of the tram, so you're seeing those trailers over there. They house the costumes for the productions happening in this area. Now, trailers can also be used for hair and makeup for the actors, or where the actors can hang out in between filming. And then all of these vehicles are in front of Soundstage 14, which was used for the movie Jurassic Park, the scene where Tim and Lexi were up in the tree and then they get sneezed on by a brachiosaurus. So once again, they made it look like they were outside in the jungles of Costa Rica. Soundstage 14 was also used for How the Grinch Stole Christmas, directed by Ron Howard. And Ron Howard used Soundstage 14 for his movie Apollo 13. It was mission control. Now, Ron Howard actually approached NASA to ask if they could film in the actual mission control over in Houston, Texas. NASA gave him the thumbs up. The only problem, not enough room for all of the filming equipment. So they just recreated mission control right here on the Universal lot. And then coming up on the right side of the tram, we're going to be seeing a cluster of smaller sound stages used mostly for television shows. So up on your screens, these are kind of the classic titles that have filmed in these stages. I grew up watching the show Sabrina the Teenage Witch, which also filmed here. Now more recently, they've been used for shows like Never Have I Ever, which was produced by Mindy Kaling and loosely based off of her own adolescence. And you can watch all 4 seasons streaming on Netflix. And then The Good Place, starring Ted Danson and Kristen Bell. They filmed inside of Soundstage 19 for that production. Soundstage 19 was also used for the movie Oppenheimer, which won an Academy Award for Best Picture. And it was specifically the Oval Office scenes that they did inside of 19. Now coming up on the left side of the tram, you're going to spot Ted, the teddy bear, from the movies Ted and Ted 2. Ted has his own television series out. It is a prequel to the movies. It takes place when Ted and John are in high school, so around the year 1993. The first season already streaming on Peacock. They've been filming season 2 here on the lot over the past few weeks. Also on the left are the production bungalows, and among them is Mark Platt Productions, who are bringing Wicked to movie theaters. And here with a special message is the director of the film, John M. Chu.
studio tour. You're seeing a lot of behind-the-scenes movie-making magic today, showing you up close how filmmakers like me bring our dreams to the big screen. After your tour, the magic of Wicked continues at Universal Studios Hollywood, where you can experience photo ops, props, and costumes from the film, and fun bites and drinks from Shiz and Emerald City. But first, here's a look at Wicked.
Come with me to meet the wizard. I'm gonna test me. This is your moment. Uncut.
Is it that something to see? Very serious.
Don't miss Wicked, only in theaters, including our very own Universal Cinema on City Walk. Now we're going to get a chance to see some of the newer sound stages coming up on the left side of the tram. You actually may notice these stages look a little bit different than the ones we passed earlier. That's because when they were built, they actually included office spaces in front of the sound stages. Very convenient for your writing team. Now Soundstage 25, that is where they've been filming season 3 of Lopez vs. Lopez, starring George Lopez and his real-life daughter Mayan Lopez. And then Soundstage 26 houses the sets from a brand new television series called St. Dennis Medical. It's a mockumentary-style comedy about an underfunded hospital up in Oregon. It stars David Allen Greer and it airs Tuesdays on NBC. So we are now crossing an imaginary border between the front lot and our back lot, where we house a lot of the large outdoor sets. For example, our Metropolitan sets coming up on the right side of the tram. Our Metropolitan sets can represent any large or small city from around the world. So we're actually going to be seeing the exterior of the hospital for St. Dennis Medical coming up on the right side of the tram. And then right across from the hospital entrance is our Brownstone Street, which was used as Buffalo, New York in Bruce Almighty.
Grace, the dog! I'm in the shower! Inside bad, outside good. Inside bad, outside good. Oh, you're done. B-E-A-U.
Our Brownstone Street can also be seen in movies like Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. It's where Kevin McAllister's aunt and uncle live. But we are leaving Buffalo and we are headed to Courthouse Square. So we named these sets after the movie To Kill a Mockingbird because this is where the courthouse was located. But many of our guests recognize this as Hill Valley, California, from Back to the Future and Back to the Future Part 2.
It was actually the back lot of Courthouse Square that inspired the entire requirement of the future.
I had scenes up on the clock tower on that ledge. So it was the ledge about that wide. And I was standing inside looking at the ledge, and I already had vertigo. And I just thought, there's no way in the world, no way I'm going to stand there. I was up there for quite a while. Of course, I had a cable.
So right now, Courthouse Square is getting set up for season 2 of Ted. They're going to be using the clock tower building as the high school where Ted and John go, John Hancock High School. Now up on your screens, you may notice that the clock tower looks different in the movies than it does today. That's because those films were so popular, this area was becoming very recognizable. So when the production Ghost Whisperer with Jennifer Love Hewitt wanted to use Courthouse Square as Grand View, they had to change the look of the clock tower, so they added in that fake brick wall. And here we are in New York, our New York Street. I'm going to have Jimmy Fallon tell you more about these sets. He knows all about New York City because that is where he films The Tonight Show.
Hey everyone, welcome to New York. I got my start right here in New York on Saturday Night Live. This is actually my old neighborhood. Once got mugged over there. That old woman. Tough lady. This is my favorite hot dog guy. Hey buddy, how's it going? Remember me? You know? Just like old times. Gotta love New York City. I'm walking here! I'm walking here! Tell you guys, I was just walking there. So it's not exactly New York, but a lot of times when you see New York in the movies, it was shot right here on the Universal Metro sets. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. Even if you make it here on the Universal lot.
Yeah, it's not always New York City. For example, in American Ninja Warrior, when they're telling you they're filming their semifinals from downtown Los Angeles, they are lying to you. They're right here on the Universal lot. So they have their obstacle course set up all along our Metropolitan sets, and then they'll film, and they're usually here for about a good month. But enough about our concrete jungle, because we are headed to the jungles of Skull Island from Peter Jackson's King Kong.
It's the original King Kong that he made. I saw that movie on TV when I was about 8 or 9 years old. I like films that just go away like Kong literally does that. I mean, you're on board the ship, you're sailing to a lost island, you're encountering monsters, creatures from, prehistoric times. So I was thrilled when Universal invited me back to Skull Island. It was great to have you along for the ride. Now we have created this 3D Universal experience, so you're going to have to have your glasses ready. Don't put them on yet, just put them in your hand because we're about to return to Skull Island. The Universal tram is winding its way through a very rough, narrow trail in Skull Island around visitors, sneak peek at some of the wildlife on Skull Island. In a sense, this is like a mini sequel, a mini continuation. We are just taking the Kong, Skull Island, and the dinosaurs that we established in our feature film. And this is, another day, another incident on Skull Island, using the creatures and the character and personality of Kong as he appeared in the movie.
And we're going to go visit King Kong on Skull Island. It's going to be a very bumpy ride, so hold on tightly to those personal belongings and remain seated at all times.
Okay, glasses on everybody. We're back in Skull Island.
Thank you so much for your patience. It does seem we're having a little bit of technical difficulties with Skull Island. So we're going to hang out here to see if we are going to be able to proceed forwards. Do remain seated because we could be moving forwards at any time. those impressive special effects were brought to us by Peter Jackson and the very talented crew over at Weta FX. It used to be called Weta Digital, but they did update their name. Still based out of Wellington, New Zealand, and they worked with Peter Jackson on the Lord of the Rings trilogy. They also worked on a number of superhero movies like Guardians of the Galaxy, Deadpool, Avengers Endgame, and they won their 7th Academy Award for Avatar: The Way of Water. Now, this portion of our Metropolitan set has been nicknamed London Square, and that's because of some of the buildings that we can be seeing coming up on the left, the architectural style similar to what you might find over by Parliament in Great Britain. Now, these sets have been used in television shows like Agent Carter and The Mindy Project, and more recently you can see them in a brand new Netflix series called A Man on the Inside, starring Ted Danson. Now, on the right side of the train, you're seeing that big wall. Now, the wall does help block a lot of the noise from the theme park from getting into your filming location, and it also blocks out the California hills, which you wouldn't find in New York City. And the style of painting that's on that wall is called a trompe-l'oeil, which means fool the eye. So the highlights and the shadows will actually trick the camera into making it look like a three-dimensional building. And they do have functional doors, so you can have your background actors go in and out of that fake building. And speaking of things that are not quite what they seem, coming up on the left, you're going to see the big brick walls. There's no brick there. It's actually sheets of fiberglass called skins that have been stapled onto a plywood wall. And then coming up on the right side of the tram, we've got our beautiful monster murals that were created for us by Tristan Eaton. Tristan started off doing graffiti in Los Angeles, went to school to learn classical art techniques as well, and now makes murals like these all around the world. And in 2019, Universal invited him down to the lot. He looked at the archival footage of our monster movies and created these beautiful murals for us. He did this all freehand using just spray cans. No stencils were involved. And we really wanted to give an homage to those monsters because they did help us out, especially during the 1930s. Now, coming up on the left side of the tram, you'll see sound stages 30 through 33. Sound stages 30 and 31 are where we've been filming season 26 of The Voice, and then sound stages 32 and 33, they're being used for a brand new television show called Happy's Place with Reba McEntire. Reba McEntire is also a coach on The Voice, so she's a very busy lady, but you can see she doesn't have too far to travel. And in front of those sound stages is a body of water called Park Lake, which was used as the Amazon River for the creature from the Black Lagoon, which is celebrating its 70th anniversary this year. Now, up on your screens, you're seeing the Gill Man. They had to have two different actors portray him because his costume didn't have room for an oxygen tank. So they hired a professional diver who was able to hold his breath for long periods of time, allowing the camera crew to get footage of the Gill Man in the water. Then they had another actor portray the Gill Man outside of the water. Now, there's actually a scene where the Gilman is in the water and he's reaching up for the lady's leg as she swims above him that inspired a young Guillermo del Toro. He was about 7 years old when he saw Creature from the Black Lagoon, and at that time, he wanted to know more about the relationship between the Gilman and the lady. So when he grew up to become a big-time Hollywood director, he went ahead and created the story himself in The Shape of Water, which won an Academy Award for Best Picture. So yes, our monster movies have been inspiring filmmakers for decades. Now, speaking of those monster movies, we're going to be driving through our Little Europe sets, which were used for many of the early Universal monster films. But if you are a fan of The Good Place, you'll recognize this area as the Afterlife.
Cool.
This location, the afterlife, I've never seen this.
I'm not supposed to be here. I can't risk going to the bad place.
It's not all that bad.
How can I help you?
What is the bad place like?
Well, it doesn't sound awesome.
So for fans of The Good Place, we are going to get a peek at the clam chowder fountain coming up on the left side of the tram. We're also going by that main yogurt shop that had flavors like fully charged cell phone or Beyonce compliments your hair. Now, the reason why they had so many yogurt shops in The Good Place was because all of the riders were asked to make a list of everything they would have in their own personal heaven, and every single rider put down frozen yogurt shop. So it was a bit of an inside joke for the production to fill up The Good Place with frozen yogurt. And also we're going to be seeing the train station that would take guests to either the medium place or the bad place, and that's coming up on the left side of the tram. Now, on the right side, we have the Court of Miracles. That was named after the movie The Hunchback of Notre Dame, with Lon Chaney portraying Quasimodo. These sets were also used in Frankenstein, The Invisible Man, The Mummy, The Wolf Man, The Bride of Frankenstein, The Son of Frankenstein. So basically, Universal stumbled onto the fact that those monster movies were so popular during the Great Depression because audiences wanted to see people in a worse off position than themselves. And they were very cost effective to make. We're using the same sets over and over again, the same actors, the same costumes, even the same props. So props are just items that the actors are using within that scene. So because they were both cost effective and popular, it meant Universal was actually making money during the Great Depression. And that's why we hold those monsters near and dear to our hearts. Now, in front of us is Soundstage 50, and inside of Soundstage 50 is what we would call a hot set. So this means it's completely decorated. The lights are up, the camera is ready to go. If the cast and crew were still here, the director could call action and they could start filming their production. But when they're on a break, it gives us, the studio tour, an opportunity to take a peek inside. Soundstage 50 is very unique for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's the only soundstage you can drive a tram right on through. That's because it has the big elephant doors on either side of the soundstage. We named them elephant doors because back when we were first doing movies in the early 1900s, they would bring in actual elephants into the sound stages. So they needed the doors to be big enough to have the elephants go in and out. We don't do that anymore, but we kept the nickname and we like the size of the door. It makes it easy to bring in larger set pieces or when you need to drive a vehicle into a sound stage. Also, Soundstage 50 is a practical effects soundstage. Practical effects are special effects that happen in real time in front of the camera. So we are going to experience some sudden tram movements. So just make sure all of your personal belongings are secure. And of course, you remain seated throughout the entire tour for your safety. Now, you don't need the 3D glasses. The 3D glasses that we used in King Kong 360 3D, those kinds of special effects are created on a computer, CGI. And that's done when the camera stops rolling. So you don't need the 3D glasses in here, but make sure you hold on to them tightly. If you drop anything inside of Soundstage 50, we won't be able to retrieve it for you until the very end of the day. Okay, so we're gonna head inside of Soundstage 50. So we're gonna be going into a subway station, and based off the set decorations, we're located in San Francisco. Now on the left side of the tram, the production has left up their schedule on the chalkboard so you can get an idea of what a filming day is gonna be like. Now ticket machine heist, that makes a lot of sense. If you look over at the ticket machine, that's where all the lights are, the cameras in that area, we've got props like the crowbar and the bag of cash. Now since we're here in San Francisco, of the 1970s and 80s. The earthquake in 1974. So at that time, really went on in generated imagery in the same way that we do nowadays. So they created those big practical effects that happen quickly and then reset quickly as well. So in about a minute and a half, we went through that 8.4 earthquake, the dumpster that caught on fire, the runaway subway train, and then it all ended with the tidal wave, and then everything resets in a matter of seconds. And we're about halfway through the tour, so just want to remind everybody to remain seated throughout the entire tour. The studio is private property, so if you drop your phone or you just can't wait to use the restroom, pull the red cord to get my attention, and I will be back to assist you, but do remain seated on the tram, especially for this next part, because we're going to be right next to the water here at Amity Island. Now, we had a bit of a shark problem, but it looks like the shark was caught by our veteran diver, George. Oh, she's smiling. She's ready for a close-up. Now, George is still in the water. George is apparently not alone in the water. There does seem to be another shark, so I'm going to try to get a hold of George. George, buddy. Hey, so there is another shark in the water. Oh, no. But actually, this is great news. Sharks hate fire, so the shark is not going to appear anywhere near this tram. Strobe lights that have been placed on top of the building, so they're out of view of the buildings. Now, for me, we use another very simple technique called a sprinkler system. So we have the sprinkler systems up high. They shoot the water up into the air, and it falls down to the ground quite naturally. Now, during the daytime, the sun does help illuminate those raindrops. At night, we have to use another technique like lightning. Otherwise, the camera has a really hard time seeing the effect. Now, with all this rain, it is going to cause some slight flooding. Don't worry, we're going to be safe as long as we can see it on the tram. But everybody keep an eye out for those cameras and those cell phones. So there's Paul Giamatti and his stunt double. Now, Lady Gaga used that very same fast butterfly in her music video Judas, but she didn't use a stunt double. She actually stood in the middle of that flash flood wearing 6-inch heels. So you see it knock her over? That was the real Lady Gaga. She also did a big dance number for that same music video right here in Old Mexico. They even had fire coming out of the fountain. And our Old Mexico sets can be seen in television series like Star Trek Picard. It's Vashti, the Romulan refugee planet, and it's also the town of Pariah in Westworld. Now, speaking of Westerns, here we are in 6 Points, and Jimmy Fallon's going to tell you a little bit more about these sets.
Don't want no trouble. They just want to check out 6 Points, one of the oldest sets on the Universal line.
I hear this where John Wayne and Jimmy Stewart shot a few of their westerns.
That's right. That's where I aim to shoot you.
Looks like we got ourselves a Mexican standoff. Lucky shot.
Now what say you mount up and get out of town while we're getting good?
All right. Well, I'll see you again, fella.
Oh, you can count on me, fella. Get up.
This is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Top down, that's all.
You can see our 6 Point sets in movies like Disney's Saving Mr. Banks. It was the Australian outback. It was used as a Northern California mining town in Call of the Wild with Harrison Ford. It was used as a Western set in Quentin Tarantino's ninth film, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, starring Margot Robbie, Brad Pitt, and Leonardo DiCaprio. And you can see these sets in the movie Maxine, directed by Ty West. The characters are driving around a movie studio on a golf cart. This is the studio that they're on. So they go through our Metropolitan sets, our Western sets, and they go all the way up to the Bates Motel. Now, as we pass by Amity Island again, remember that Jaws did not film here on the Universal lot. It filmed over in Martha's Vineyard. But we still use those Amity Island sets for different productions. Like it was in an episode of The Good Place, Chidi actually ends up falling into the water. And it was used for the television show Murder, She Wrote, starring the late, great Dame Angela Lansbury. So actually, if you look where the shark is hanging up, past it is the boathouse. It will still say Cabot Cove, and that is an homage to Murder, She Wrote. Now, if you're wondering, was the mechanical shark here when they were filming the television series? Yes, it was. It was just always out of view of the camera. And then we are getting a peek at a couple of our residential filming locations. So we've got Elm Street. That's the smaller location over here on the left side of the tram. The yellow house with the green roof is Boo Radley's house in Little Mockingbird. And if you're a fan of Never Have I Ever, this is the street where Paxton lived. And coming up on the right side of the tram is the Chicken Ranch from the movie musical The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, starring Dolly Parton and Burt Reynolds. It was also used as the Firefly Ranch for Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses. So the Chicken Ranch is actually a practical set, so you can film on the inside and the outside. The house behind it, that is a facade or false front. We only built one wall of the structure. And then over on the left side of the tram is the entrance to Colonial Street, being used for season 2 of the Ted television series, because that is the street where Ted and John live.
Let the festivities begin.
How many we got?
Well, let's see. We got 20 cabins.
Fantastic.
Do you think we're getting too old for this?
Come on, John, we're doing a public service. If a kid leaves the house in a less than stellar Halloween costume, he's got to get the bad news before he makes a fool of himself all over town. We're Samaritans.
Yes. So season 1 already streaming on Peacock, and I said that they are getting ready to film season 2 in the next few weeks. Now we're about 15 minutes away from the end of the tour, and we'll be returning to the theme park shortly. Remember to pull the red emergency cord if you need assistance, and remain seated at all times. Now, coming up on the left and the right side of the tram, we're going to get an opportunity to see picture cars. Picture cars are pretty much any vehicle that you're seeing up on the screen. We even have one of our classic 1964 Glamour trams on display. You'll see that coming up on the left side of the tram. Now, next to the Glamour tram is the gyrosphere from Jurassic World. We didn't remove the glass. It never existed. What you saw in the movie was CGI, so you don't pick up the reflection of your camera crew. And then our Flintstone vehicles, they're made out of fiberglass and were either towed or pushed during filming. So no, John Goodman didn't have to pedal them with his feet. We've got one of Dominic Toretto's Chargers from the Fast and Furious franchise. And it is next to the Nissan Skyline that Paul Walker's character drove in Too Fast, Too Furious. And then at the very end, we've got Bumblebee from the Transformers film. And yes, Bumblebee is next to a Decepticon because they are only enemies on screen. And right around the corner is the Bates Motel. Now, these sets are not from the original Psycho movie. They were actually built for the sequels. So the first 35 feet of the motel was built for Psycho 2, and then the rest of it was built for Psycho 3. But the house up on the hill, that is from the original Psycho film, and we're going to be going right by it. But on our way there, you're going to spot our scale model Hollywood sign, currently decorated for the holidays. The real Hollywood sign is celebrating its 100th anniversary. Now, I am a bit nervous to go by the Psycho house. That's because earlier today, I did see somebody wandering around inside. Some of the other guides said that they saw somebody kind of hanging out in the second story window near the front of the house. And I saw somebody kind of just wandering around the front door earlier today. Now, all of the guides, we all seem to spot this person near the front of the house, and that's probably because the backyard is a complete wreck. Yes, it is the sets from War of the Worlds, directed by Steven Spielberg and starring Tom Cruise. That is a real 747 Boeing out there that Paramount Pictures purchased from the plane graveyard out in the Mojave Desert and flown out here to Universal Lot. Now, it took them a month to create this set. They filmed it for about a week, and all of this was done for a scene that lasted maybe 5 minutes of the entire film.
Well, they should have just moves.
So in order for Paramount Pictures to get the plane out here to Universal Lot, they had to cut it up into 4 pieces to fit on 4 flatbed trucks. They also had to cut the top of the plane off so that it could fit underneath the freeway overpasses. And production designer Rick Carter and Steven Spielberg had every intention of putting the plane back together, but they kept it in that condition. They created an air of mystery. You, the audience, are going to come up with your own story about how did the aliens rip that plane to pieces, and what did the aliens do to everybody on the inside. Now, War of the Worlds is a movie about a large-scale alien invasion. The next sets we're driving through, they're from the movie Nope about a UFO hotspot. Here's Academy Award-winning director Jordan Peele to tell us about Jupiter's Clay.
Movie magic only happens when a team of collaborators, often in the hundreds, work together to take an impossible notion and bring it to life. This is Jupiter's Clay, a nostalgic, small-time Southern California amusement park owned by former child star Ricky J. Parker. Over there, look into the winking lamp and have your picture taken just like the kids in that old 90s movie Kid Share. That's what this whole place is loosely based on. Remember that one? No? Right. A little further down, you can see the brand new Star Lasso experience. Built to showcase an unbelievable
take Jupe's advice and leave Jupiter's Clay. Sounded like there was a big UFO that just passed over us. The UFO also affects an electrical system, so that's why the Sky Dancer stopped working and why the lights began to flicker. Okay, folks, it is now time to put all of you into the movies. We're going to be putting you into the Fast and Furious franchise. Now, I'm going to go ahead and set the scene.